The NuPhy Air60 V2 is a truly portable mechanical keyboard, but does that come at the expense of the overall typing experience? Let's find out. Having seen my video on its slightly bigger brother, the Air75 V2, NuPhy kindly reached out and sent me over an Air60 to review for the channel and act as a comparison. If this is your first time unboxing a NuPhy keyboard, the packaging is as clean cut and thoughtfully made as the keyboards themselves. You get some really simple instructions on how to use the keyboard, as well as some waifu stickers that are a hit among the community. And of course, you get some additional keycaps in case you want to swap between Mac and Windows devices, or just use a cat as your function key like I do. One immediate difference I noticed between the Air60 and the Air75 is that in this package you actually get a side-loading USB-C cable, and you also get a shorter USB-C cable for some very cool use cases, which we'll get to in a second. But first, I wanted to check out which switches NuPhy sent me with this keyboard. NuPhy have designed their own selection of switches, which they'll actually give you some samples of in the box. And with my keyboard in particular, they sent over their Cowberry Red switches. These are linear switches with 3.2mm of action and a decent amount of pre-travel, and my first impression is that they feel really good. But let's just take a moment to admire this minimal compact design that NuPhy Studio has really become known for. The rounded edges of its body and that metallic sheen make it fit in well with an Apple user's desk setup like mine, and it also has the playfulness with those joyfully coloured keycaps, which are double shot this time around. It's subtly playful but very professional looking. The reverse side is semi-transparent, so you can see all the details of what's going on under the hood. And also on this V2 version, you get some nice feet that you can use to set the keyboard at a slightly higher height. This is critical to what makes the NuPhy Air60 V2 such a brilliantly portable keyboard. Not only is that compact form factor easy to slip into any bag, it's also able to sit on top of most laptops and completely replace the keyboard. This is brilliant on something like that Touch Bar MacBook keyboard, which I still can't type on to this day, and so using that tiny USB-C cable, I'm able to bypass it completely, still have access to the MacBook's trackpad, and honestly this is the best typing experience this laptop has ever seen. If you want to go there, you could even place this over the keys on an Apple Magic keyboard, and it's actually a really nice typing experience. The trackpad peeps out from underneath, and you got the iPad on that raised platform to bring that mechanical keyboard feeling to your iPad on the go. When it comes to using the Air60 on a traditional desktop setup, this is where you're going to start to notice some of the limitations compared to something like the Air75. Now, the Air75 is very compact in its own right, so it doesn't actually look that much bigger than the Air60. However, when you sit down to type, that's when you really notice those missing keys. NuPhy have completely removed the function row on the Air60, so if you want to do things like change the volume or brightness of your display, then you'll have to do so while pressing the function key. This isn't necessarily a big deal, but one thing that I often do when I'm working is control the mouse with my right hand and move through things on Spotlight using my left with the keyboard. That's something that you can't do quite as seamlessly when you're using the Air60. I'd say this is also very much at the limit of what is comfortable to type on in a larger desk setup, and I did find myself making a few more typing errors than I did on the Air75. That could also just be down to adjusting to these switches though. I'm definitely more used to using tactile switches like the cherry brown ones, and at least for me that additional pre-travel means that I sometimes miss key presses, and it does lead to some typing errors. You can definitely type for a long period of time without feeling too cramped, so I would feel confident taking this into my office alongside the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It's not too loud of a keyboard either, so I think I would get away with using it in a more public space. And although this is quite a small keyboard, you get quite a nice low frequency actuation when you are tapping those keys. So without further ado, let's go into a bit of a sound test. In In comparing the Air60 to the Air75, I also wanted to take a look at the different colour options available, so I picked up the grey in the Air60 and the white in the Air75. I'm generally a fan of white technology. I think it looks really clean on your desk, but the grey is more in line with that classic NuPhy look, and I have to say I'm really impressed by how it is in person too. If you're sitting on the fence between a lighter and darker style of setup, then I think the grey is a brilliant option. When it comes to overall typing experience though, I do think that you're going to get more bang for your buck out of the Air75 V2. Those function rows and the additional space that you have to work with just make it an overall more enjoyable typing experience when working at your desk. At the same time, if you primarily want to use your keyboard on the go or use it to replace a laptop keyboard that you really don't get along with, the Air60 is a phenomenal choice. In the long term, it's not going to take the place of a slightly bigger keyboard on my desk, but I do much prefer it to typing on something like the Apple Magic Keyboard alongside my iPad, and I will be taking it with me on trips when I want access to a more premium typing experience. So once again, thank you to NuPhy for sending it over. If you want to see how I got on with the Air75 V2, check out this video here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.